Hello and welcome back to my channel and the very first video of 2022. How exciting! I hope you had a lovely Christmas and New Year's. I wanted to start this year off by making a video reflecting on last year and my experience in selling prints and commissions on Etsy and how much money I made and some positives and negatives associated with all that. So let's dive into it. Cast your mind back all the way to the middle of 2020. It was around that time that I decided to open my Etsy store and see what all this selling your artwork online actually meant and how it worked. A lot of people do prepare for these sorts of things when they're opening an online store, but I just dived in completely blind more or less and started putting up some listings of prints of my artwork to sell online. Over the rest of 2020 I think I just got a couple of purchases as I didn't really dedicate that much time to it and it was just sort of an experiment to see how this whole Etsy thing works. But last year at the start of 2021 I wanted to dedicate more of my time and efforts towards Etsy and trying to sort of build this as a bit more of a better revenue. So I did that and skipped forward 12 months and I made 822 Australian dollars and 48 cents. Now, depending on what part of your art career you're at, that's either a lot of money or not much money. In the grand scheme of things, $800 over the course of a year, that's not going to help you too much in your life. It's not going to pay for rent or anything like that. But when I think about the fact that this money came from my hobby and sort of something that I do anyway, and from my art, that's a huge number. So let me break it down a little bit more about how the whole year progressed from January to December. So in the first few months of 2021, it was very slow. I was selling prints at about $15 or $20. I think it was $20 at the start of the year and then I dropped it to $15. Now because I don't have a large following on Instagram or YouTube, most of these sales were coming from Etsy's search engine. So people were searching up like village scenes or landscapes, things like that, and they were finding my artwork and then purchasing it from there. So that's sort of how it went throughout the first half of the year. The second half of the year, which I'll talk a bit more in detail in a while, things started to really take off, especially October through to December. But the thing that actually built my overall income quite drastically last year was selling commissions towards the end of the year. So I put a listing up for that and I only had 5 commissions that I was going to do throughout the year. I limited it to 5 and I recommend you do this too if you're interested, because you don't want a lot of people suddenly wanting a commission from you and then also having to balance that with school or work and also balancing that with personal life. It gets very hectic very quickly, as I found out when I did have 2 running at the same time at one point last year. So I put it down to 5 because I thought, well, in the unlikely event that 5 people buy a commission from me at the same time, then my life's going to be very stressful at that point, but it's better than having 10 people buy a commission from me at the same time. Hope that makes sense. I did originally restrict the size to A5, but by restricting my painting size to A5, that really restricted my creativity as well. At the start it was very hard to keep like a house painting in A5 scale. You can do it, but you do miss out on a bit of details with that. So once I realised that, I did up the size of my paper to a much more manageable size. I also grossly undercharged myself for these commissions at the beginning. I was selling them for $55, and when you work out the hourly rate from that, especially considering that a commission probably takes 5 hours or more on average, depending on how I'm feeling. I was undercharging myself per hour, but in a way I wouldn't not do that because you're learning, and I wasn't feeling that strong and confident about my art skills, so I was thinking, well, at least they didn't put hundreds and hundreds of dollars into this because I'm worried that this doesn't look good. So it was sort of like a little buffer. And yeah, so in a way it was pocket money, but I got that experience of actually working with the client and learning how that works, and discussing ideas with other people. So you do get a lot out of it from doing a commission, even if you do it at a lowered rate. I wouldn't recommend you do it at that rate forever, but if you're getting started, then in a way, I don't want to say don't worry about undercharging yourself, because you don't want to undercharge yourself, but if you're not feeling confident, then maybe do set it at a lower price, because you can always increase it in the future. And it turns out people will buy it at a higher price as well. It's not the low price that's actually bringing people towards purchasing your commissions. Yeah, a few months later I did up the price to $100. Once again, if you turn that into an hourly rate, then it is probably still below average wage, but I'm feeling a bit more confident at $100. Maybe one day I'll up it to $150 or something like that, but at the moment I feel like that is a good representation of how much money my art is worth at the moment. So yeah, I'm keeping it that for now. And that's $100 plus postage as well. So like I said before, the commission pieces have been the bulk of the money that I earned last year, but also that has definitely been active income as well. I have worked for that money, whereas the prints were more passive. I mean, I still had to print them and package them up and everything, but I didn't have to put any brain power into that. I don't know whether that's interesting to you at all, but worth noting, I think. So, mistakes that I made for this Etsy thing and information that I should pass on to you. If you're thinking about doing Etsy or selling your artwork online, first realise that it's a learning curve. You're not going to have it all figured out before you get started. A lot of people, including myself, deliberate for a very long time trying to get everything perfectly so that when you launch it's like just completely perfect and fancy and professional. But realistically, unless you have a big audience, probably nothing's going to happen once you've launched. It's going to take a while to build it, so why not work on it and build it at the same time that you could be earning income from it? I hope that makes sense. So yeah, essentially don't wait for the right moment because it's rarely ever a thing. Start with what you've got and start selling it, and over time just add to that and you'll slowly learn and get better and everything will become a lot smoother. My biggest mistake so far though with the Etsy is postage. I'm in Australia and Australia Post is quite expensive. Especially if you're shipping with tracking and especially if you're shipping with tracking overseas. I have sent a few prints overseas and one of them I actually had to pay more for postage than the person paid to purchase the prints. I was out of pocket at the end of that one by $37, which isn't a lot, but at the very start it's like, oh, I'm paying for someone to buy my thing. It's a bit weird. That was okay, I took it in my stride. It was a time to learn from that experience. Postage is probably something that you're going to learn as you go through it, but with trial and error like that, you do eventually learn, and also when you find the right person that works at the post office that actually gives you tips and advice, that's 100% times more better as well. So if you are starting out on this journey, try and go to your post office and hopefully you'll have a decent person serve you who will actually help you get the lowest cost for postage and still be able to satisfy your needs with tracking numbers if you need them. And posting overseas if that happens to happen as well. So they were a few of the mistakes that I made. Some of the positives from this whole experience have been the really nice reviews that I've got, and just knowing that my artwork, originals and prints are like across the globe. I'm like a little virus. To put it in an interesting way. I think I've got prints in all of the states of Australia. No territories though yet, so I've got to take over them somehow. And I've sold prints to Canada and the UK as well, so that's very cool. The best thing is that I feel as if I am actually reaching my goals now. $822, like I said, it's not much, but it's money from my art, and one day I'd like to have a decent part-time wage at least from all of this. So I'm sort of starting on that journey and that's very exciting to me. So my goals for 2022 are to sell a few more different size prints. I definitely need to do that. And I want to make more original artworks to sell as well. That's something that I'm going to work on in the background. And I also need to diversify my income streams over time as well. I mean, at the moment, if you count my income, it all comes from Etsy, apart from my other job. So to spread that out to things like YouTube eventually, and Patreon, that's sort of what I'd like to do. I'd like to do more Patreon things this year. I also want to sell more things on Etsy. So at the moment there's prints and there's some bookmarks, but I want to make some more. Maybe stickers, maybe handmade gifts, we'll see. There's a lot of directions that I could go in, but that is my Etsy story for now, for 2021. Thank you very much for watching. I hope this video was entertaining or useful. If you are thinking about starting an online business this year with your art, then just do it. Do it now. Just put one listing up there and then get into the pattern of putting more up. But just get your foot in the door, and I wish you all the luck, and hopefully I will see you again in another video. Thank you for watching and listening. and happy 2022. Bye!